sections off the black population, like cordons off the black population to as limited a number of areas, districts as possible. So if there's like a big black neighborhood, let's say there's like here, hold on. Let's open up Paint and I'll explain it to you that way. Okay. Here. Look. Let's say this is a state. Okay. And let's say in this state, there are going to be areas where there's like a lot of black people living in it, right? Let's say that black people live in the inner city area for the most part, okay? And they make up this much of the population of the state. And they are like heavily, densely populated in this area, the inner city area, okay? Now, the process of redistricting would either create equal shares and would evenly district it out in an effort to make sure that there's like proportional representation to a certain degree, and have like certain pieces like this where there's enough black people and enough Democrats that there's like democratic representation. But if you want, you can slice this cake any way that you choose to. And you can slice it in a way where it is the least opportune. Like you can do this, you can do this, okay? You can just like cut it in a way where you just take the black population and distribute it amongst all of the other areas where the white population specifically, or the Republican population specifically, is outnumbering the black population, allowing them never to get proper representation. Okay? You can do it in any shape that you want. And as a matter of fact, many of these districts, if you look at like Dan Crenshaw's district, black population from different districts and putting it into an overwhelmingly white majority population in an effort to remove them from ever getting proper representation. Okay? Yeah, and the total number of districts is based on the total population, so they can be very creative within that boundary. Not specifically about VRA districts, yeah, but easiest gerrymandering graphic ever. Yeah, you got 50 precincts, is 60% blue and 40% red, okay? Let's say you got 50 total precincts. Ultimately, it comes down to a 60% Democratic population and 40% Republican population. If you chop it up this way, you will have 5 districts where every single district is majority Democrat. So you have 5 blue districts. If you chop it up this way with gerrymandering, you will have 5 districts and 3 are red and only 2 are blue. Do you want to save your work? No, I don't. Do you get it? Have you seen about the Defense Department confiscated all Pentagon reporters because they refused to sign? Yes, I did. I covered it. This is how it's done. This is how it's chopped up. Can you gerrymander your party to power? Gerrymandering is the intentional distortion of political districts to give one party an advantage and has been criticized for disenfranchising many voters and fueling deeper polarization. To help you understand it better, we created an imaginary state called Hexopolis, where your only mission is to gerrymander your party to power. Every 10 years, Hexopolis redraws its congressional district lines, just like the United States does. But Hexopolis is a simpler place. Lawmakers in either Purple Party or Yellow Party control redistricting. To increase their advantage in upcoming elections, they have been known to gerrymander egregiously, even if it means leaving some voters disenfranchised. Hexopolis has 9 districts. Even though a majority of the voters favor Purple Party, that does not mean that the Yellow Party can't shift the state's partisan tilt. First, here's how to draw a district. Each hexagon represents a person. Group 15 adjacent ones to make a congressional district. Boom. I just made a congressional district. Districts must have equal populations. Dividing 45 into 3 groups of 15 would give each district the same number of residents. Some, by law, must protect underrepresented voters. Some hexagons represent a voter who belongs to a minority group. No, oh my God, we're gaming. Oh my God, I just realized we're fucking gaming. Oh my God. We are lit. Hexagon represents a voter who belongs to a minority group in Hexopolis. A mostly minority district is one where more than half of the hexagons are this. Districts can lean yellow or purple. Purple is a voter who favors a purple party, and yellow is a favor yellow party. More than half the hexagons in 2 districts here lean purple. Try to make districts compact. Compact districts are usually shaped like circles or squares. Try keeping as many neighbors together as possible. Least compact, most compact could be better. You are a yellow party legislator. Use all the hexagons to make 9 districts. Make as many majority yellow districts as you can. Make at least 2 mostly minority districts. Hexopolis currently has 2 such districts, and a state law calls for the number to stay the same if the makeup of the residents has not changed. Gain an edge by making compact districts. Snake-like district shapes will make your gerrymandering practices more conspicuous and could open you up to lawsuits, except no, it won't. Okay? You got read to filth. I bet after he's going to say, look, chat, I did gaming with Hexopolis. But I am. This is gaming. This is gaming. Okay, gerrymander for the yellow party. Okay. So there's only 2. There's only 2 yellows here. So it's going to be kind of difficult. It's going to be kind of difficult to do that unless I open it up to like a larger district here. And I don't know, maybe make it like, I don't know. Wait, what does the black box mean outside of the hexagon? Your audacity knows no bounds. What do you mean? Yellow party. Oh, they do 9 districts. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, I made one. How do I make another one? You need to have 15 per district, dumbass. Oh, true. Okay. Okay, there you go. That's it. There it is. You know what I mean? Okay, this is good. Okay, 2 more. Oh yeah, we're just gonna give it up for one like fat here. You stranded some hexagons. This will cause problems later when you can't incorporate. No! This is racism minesweeper, dude. Just take one for the left on either side. Okay, we gotta fucking fix this goddamn district, brother. No. Okay. So this would be like a purple one, I guess. No, that's too many. There's too many yellows I'm missing. I want to keep trying. So we have one mostly minority district. It's this one, but we don't have 2 mostly minority districts. And I'm seeing that a lot of minorities live in this area. And maybe we can carve it out. Chip away at the big purple on the right. Yeah, I mean, this kind of sucks though, because it's like... Maybe we can redistrict here. What do we do? Can't we just make this an entire district in and of itself? Bro, this is a vibe right now. Still taking an L. Hold on. Let's just make a big purple one first of all, before I tackle any of this shit. Let's just make one purple district first, okay? Just all purple. All purple. Okay? Yeah. Put them all in one district. You feel me? Put them all in one district. Let's delete this. And then let's make another. Move it to get to top. Wait, what? Move it to get the top 4. Delete everything and make a bottom right be mostly yellow minorities and purple towards the center. Yeah, we got to do like pack in here, right? But obviously in this direction. Okay, this is good. This is good. We got to do it like this, right? Like we're doing it now. We're doing the damn thing. We're doing the damn thing. 8Y plus 7P is not hard, yo. Have you found a new respect for gerrymandering? I mean, yeah, I did. You need a Southerner to help? I'm too anti-racist to be able to do this correctly. I'm such a honest broker. It's tough for me, okay? It's tough for me, chat. Here, this is like a... There we go. And then we do this. Okay. Then we do this. No. Wait. Oh, it is yellow. Okay. Yeah. Then we do this. And then we do this. The last remaining district. Nice map, but you still need 2 mostly minority districts. Oh shit. A mostly minority district is one where more than half of the hexagons have a minority population. Well, guess what? Here's what I can do. Make it so that you don't need mostly minority districts. Okay? Why play by the rules when you can break the rules and rewrite them? Technically, this is well gerrymandered. Yes. Yeah, where's the Supreme Court button? Where is the Supreme Court button in this? I don't understand. I'm gonna do a quick phone call to Clarence Thomas to fix this up. Hold on. Click or drag 9. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, no, that's important. That's also important. Fuck. This is the only minority majority district here. Okay? Redistricting, because of the minority redistricting, now we have 3 purple districts as opposed to good for your party, not so good for democracy. We had 6 yellow districts, 5 compact districts. Redo the bottom right so one is mostly purple and one is mostly yellow. So in the original map that I had, if it wasn't for the pesky minority majority rule, I would have been able to put together an even more rigged map. But unfortunately, I couldn't. It's because of those minorities. How does your map stack up? Your map had more majority yellow districts than 40% of all maps made by yellow party lawmakers. The highest possible is 7 majority yellow districts. I got 6 majority yellow districts. Among other maps that had the same number of majority yellow districts as yours, 34% of them had a higher number of compact districts. Not quite a high score. I could do better. I could get way more racist. Okay. Successful yellow party gerrymanders. Here are 12 maps that maximize political advantage for the yellow party made by other yellow party lawmakers like you. 7 out of 7 yellow districts, 8 out of 9 compact districts. Jesus Christ, dude. Already, Hassan doing macros for the Ounces for his chicken. Hassan trying to make yellow and purple 50-50. Okay, first of all, I still cooked. We still off in our district molestation.
Into consideration at all, you are discriminating against me, the white person, and that is against the Constitution. However, unfortunately, we do not live in a race-blind utopia where everyone has gained parity and the only difference in outcomes depends on how hard you work. If you can believe it, a few decades of laws protecting voting rights did not undo a few centuries of literal human bondage. Black people continue to live with the consequences of overt racism in housing, leading to less accumulated generational wealth, concentration into the cities, and low affordable housing stock, forcing them to live in less than ideal conditions, and then they get blamed themselves for the horrible conditions their landlords are responsible for, and so on and so on. Black people continue to live with the proven biases against them in hiring practices, violence against them enacted by the police, not to mention the day-to-day racism they have to endure from infancy through adulthood, whether it's the unconscionably high rates of infant and maternal mortality in Black populations compared to the rest of the population, or just the racist epithets thrown at people as they're trying to navigate the world. Not to mention intergenerational transmission of trauma, but Lord knows that's too many syllables for your average racist to understand. The point is, we have not arrived at a place where we can say race is no longer a factor and everyone is equal, therefore any consideration of race at all is racist against the other races. You don't get to rig the game for 200 years and then claim, well, now we've stopped discriminating, so everything is fine, and now if we keep talking about how we rigged the game for 200 years, that's actually discrimination against me. But that's exactly how the MAGA movement thinks. And so, returning to Louisiana v. Kalai, you have a group of non-African American voters doing just that, saying this new map is discriminatory against me because it took my race into consideration. And now the Supreme Court has the opportunity to rule that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is unconstitutional and undo all the protections it affords, much like they did in Shelby County v. Holder in 2013 when the Supreme Court did away with pre-clearance, which is a provision of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which required any new law regarding voting rights passed in states with histories of discrimination must first be approved by the Justice Department. Back in 2013, the court decided, hey, guess what? We've reached a place where we no longer need to control against these racist states. They've done their time. We've all moved on. And now our society is just and equal. Isn't that grand?
Yeah, no, totally. That's how it works, man. Pack it up. Racism is over. Duh. Let me be racist now, please.
And they did away with pre-clearance. And instantaneously, within hours and days and months, those historically racist states, well, what do you know? They passed.
To me, I'm confused. I'm a confused voter.
Laws. Weird. It's almost like a few decades of the Voting Rights Act and undo a few centuries of literal human bondage. Wild. Like, we literally chained human beings to auction blocks and sold them to the highest bidder for centuries. We shoved them into boats and stacked them on top of each other like cattle. And then we made a thriving economy worth billions of dollars on the back of their free labor. Labor we never paid for. Labor that created wealth that white people still benefit from today. And then we fought a war and said, hey, you're free now, but no, you can't live there. You can't live there. No, you can't have a voice in your representation. No, you can't go to that school. No, you can't get a mortgage. No, you can't drive through that town after dark. No, you can't expect to live through the birth of your child. No, you can't get that job. But in MAGA world, we need to move on from that. Like, literally, why do you keep talking about it? Why do you hate your country so much? We passed an act about it. It's been 60 years. We moved on. Can't you just focus on the future? And the non-African American litigants in Louisiana v. Kalai are boiling it down to an oversimplified argument. Race was taken into consideration when drawing this map with 2 majority Black districts. That violates my equal protection under the 14th Amendment as a white person, and my right to not have my vote abridged on account of my race as a white person under the 15th Amendment. But that argument is disingenuous. There's a reason we look to the intent of the people who passed a law in order to determine how to interpret a law. Lawmakers cannot possibly anticipate every scenario that could possibly occur in relation to a law they are writing. It's not possible, and even if they tried, it would lead to writing of absurdly long, difficult to understand laws, and it would take so much longer to get those laws passed, and they still wouldn't fully be able to anticipate every possible instance when the law could be implicated. Because of this, we need the courts to step in when there's a controversy and tell us what the law means and how it is applied to this specific unforeseen set of facts. There are many ways courts do this, some of which depend on the case, and some depend on the judge's ideology. You can look to the plain meaning of the words today. What does the dictionary say they mean? You can look to the meaning of the words at the time they were written. What does history tell us they were supposed to mean? And you can look to the underlying discussions on the congressional record and in other primary source documents that can help indicate, based on how these lawmakers discussed this law, this is likely how they would come out on this question, or they addressed this question in their debates, and this is likely how it would come out, etc. Each of these various modes of interpretation are helpful. In my opinion, strict adherence to any one of them is short-sighted because sometimes the way a word was defined when it was written doesn't square with today's reality, and so on. All laws are flexible and debatable and open to interpretation. If they weren't, every lawyer would be out of a job. Anyway, all that to say, it is deeply important to look at the context of laws and the Constitution to understand what the meaning is when applied to a set of facts, especially in this context where we are still very much dealing as a society with the consequences of slavery and racism. And the fact is that the 14th and 15th Amendments were not colorblind amendments. They were passed during a very specific part of our history, immediately after the Civil War, to right the wrongs of centuries of human bondage, and they ought to be interpreted as such as it applies to the Voting Rights Act. We have not solved the issue of racism in this country, and we will in many ways never fully heal the wounds that that level of horrific violence causes to a society. There are people alive now whose grandparents were enslaved by white people. White people don't get to turn around and tell them, all right, let's wrap it up, it's time to move on now. But the litigants in Louisiana v. Calais would have us believe that the writers of the 14th and 15th Amendment had them in mind when they were writing the amendments, and that their right to not give Black people an equal voice in voting is equal to or actually supersedes the right of Black people having an equal voice in voting. That in blocking their right to discriminate against Black people, the court is discriminating against them. They are also trying to paint a picture that the Voting Rights Act and the subsequent legislation and cases interpreting it create a simple rule where states are allowed to consider race when drawing district lines in favor of Black people, but not in favor of white people. The reality is that there is a complex web of guidelines and restrictions when it comes to drawing district lines under the Voting Rights Act that help ensure that the very thing I've been arguing for, that historical and present day contexts are taken into consideration, that the maps being drawn are truly equal and fair, to try to counterbalance the overt racism exhibited by states for centuries with regards to voting. It's not a simple blanket, we just give Black people as much power as possible. For example, a case called Thorburg v. Jingles established what are called the Jingles factors for bringing a Section 2 claim of voter dilution. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund created a helpful primer, which I'll link in the sources. Those factors are, quote, 1, the minority group must be sufficiently large and geographically compact to constitute a majority in a single-member district. 2, the minority group must be politically cohesive. And 3, the majority must vote sufficiently as a bloc to enable it usually to defeat the minority's preferred candidate. After considering all those factors,
Your comment on the double snip Tony getting the BB interview was 100% on point. Turns out Barry Weiss personally arranged it. Bookers love Barry, says Dylan Byers. Barry Watch. Barry Weiss continues to play lead booker at CBS News. In a meeting with the senior team at 60 Minutes this week, I'm told she proposed a package on the Gaza ceasefire and attempted to book Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, two co-architects of the deal. Meanwhile, she personally booked Bibi Netanyahu for Tony DeKoppel's interview yesterday on CBS Mornings. Bookings are table stakes in this business, of course, and they don't always drive viewership, a fact I noted when she landed Hillary Clinton and Condi Rice last week. That said, CBS stands to benefit from Barry's Rolodex of politicians, business leaders, and other members of the Sun Valley set. Most newsrooms' chiefs aren't so popular among the establishment. I told you. That's why Double Cirque Tony stayed behind for one extra day of a tomorrow where the Democrats behave a fraction as radical as the Republicans present them. Every day, I beg. Every day, I beg. I close my eyes and I dream of a better tomorrow where the Democrats are the radical socialist, Marxist-Leninist vanguardists that Republicans present them as every fucking day. Okay? I'm like, where are these far left Democrats? Kamala Harris was called a communist by Donald Trump. Every day I dream of a better tomorrow where the Democrats are actually packing the fucking courts. Room for improvement, so much room for growth. Okay? And yet we squander it. We squander it every day at the behest of the almighty Capitol. Oh my God. And every damn day, we move further and further into the depths of fascism. Richest country on the planet, and it's not enough. Okay. Yeah. Well, who was it? The Twitter user that said America's just two right-wing parties constantly calling each other communist. That's just so true. Kamala Harris calling Trump a communist, Trump calling Kamala Harris a communist. Meanwhile, one is a center-right party and the other one's a far-right party. Where's the communism? Oh my God.
The court must then determine whether the plaintiffs bringing the claim have sufficiently proven, based on a totality of the circumstances, that minority voters, quote, have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. Additionally, courts tend to also require plaintiffs to show that, one, the challenged practice imposes a discriminatory burden on members of a protected class, meaning that members of the protected class have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. And two, the burden must in part be caused by or linked to social or historical conditions that have or currently produce discrimination against members of the protected class. This all must be proven by plaintiffs in order to win a case claiming that their vote is being diluted. There are clear, high
Parenti posting, it is the heart of U.S. policy, ladies and gentlemen, to use fascism to preserve capitalism while claiming to be saving democracy from communism. Yeah, this is the gritty is the way, said it. American politics is just two right-wing parties calling each other communist. It's true. It's fucking true. I can't
bars
stand
that
it.
must be passed in order to balance the competing interests of the state, of white people, of people of color, with the aim of actually ensuring equality, taking into consideration the centuries of inequality, and not simply to say, well, we're all equal now, let's not think of the past. Why can't we all just move on? And on Wednesday, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to hear oral argument and make their own determination as to whether to take all of the previous precedent, the spirit of the laws, and the context of history into consideration, things that they claim to strongly adhere to in cases that benefit the conservative cause, or to decide it's time we all moved on from this whole race thing and just pretend everything's fine. You can listen to oral arguments live as they happen. They're around 9:30 a.m. DC time at the Supreme Court website or on C-SPAN. Sometimes the way the justices question the lawyers is pretty indicative of their feelings on the matter. And like I said, Chief Justice John Roberts seems poised to push for doing away with Section 2 on the grounds that it's unconstitutional. According to the Associated Press, Roberts, quote, has long had the landmark civil rights law in his sights, from his time as a young lawyer in the Reagan-era Justice Department to his current job. Roberts wrote the majority opinion in Shelby County v. Holder, the case that gutted preclearance, saying, quote, our country has changed, and while any racial discrimination in voting is too much, Congress must ensure that the legislation it passes to remedy that problem speaks to current conditions. We're all fixed. Nothing to
Breaking via Wall Street Journal. The Trump administration is planning sweeping changes in criminal division at the IRS. The Trump administration is preparing sweeping changes at the Internal Revenue Service that would allow the agency to pursue criminal inquiries of left-leaning groups more easily. Oh my God, this is literally what they said Obama did. This is literally what they said Obama did.
more minimal ruling would mean the quick unraveling of most Section 2 districts. Because if the facts in Louisiana don't justify drawing a second district, most other Section 2 claims would fail too. Quote, any decision to strike down what's left of the Voting Rights Act could kick off the start of a new civil rights movement and more serious talk of Supreme Court reform in the midst of crucially important midterm elections. Justices fundamentally hostile to the rights of voters place the court increasingly at odds with democracy itself. That is what's on the line this Wednesday during oral arguments. I'll be back with a new episode on Wednesday, and I'll let you know in that episode if there's any tea leaves to read in how the justices acted during arguments. Given the track record of this current court, I am not holding my breath for it to be good news. If you want the joy of supporting independent media, consider clicking the big join button here on YouTube or joining my Patreon community at patreon.com/Legia Miller, where you'll find all of these episodes completely ad-free. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons.
The fear is the weapon. They really aren't all. They aren't really all that. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think fear is the weapon, but fear is the weapon for those who pay attention. I think their greatest weapon is not fear. Their greatest weapon is indifference. Indifference from the broadest subsects of American society to everything that's going on. They also get to overwhelm the population with like a million different things that they do. They overwhelm the population with a million different things that they do and make it so that people are too busy trying to pay attention to one thing and then they move on to the next. I've noticed that even someone like myself who stays on top of shit by design because it's my job, I constantly find myself having a hard time covering every single issue that's going on. Like they are hitting every angle. I mean, think about it. Think about it. We got military deployments happening in major cities. We have mass ICE raids happening everywhere. We have the tariffs. We have 40 billion, not 20, 40 billion going to Argentina. The economy's at a standstill. We have the AI bubble that is here. Most of the gains, the overwhelming majority of gains being made is fucking AI. Trump is trying to go to war with Venezuela openly. It's fucking nuts. There are too many things to pay attention to. So I think a lot of people get overstimulated and refuse to pay attention to it. And they just check out in its entirety. Meanwhile, here's the town hall for AOC and Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders and Democratic Representative
I'll tune into this for a little bit before I have to leave.
I'm Caitlin Collins, and tonight, as the shutdown enters its third week, there are still no signs of a deal here in Washington. Republican Speaker Mike Johnson is warning that this could be one of the longest shutdowns in history. Democrats say they won't budge without addressing the rising cost of health care. But caught in the middle are the American people, including more than 1 million federal workers who are going without pay this evening. Two of the nation's most prominent leaders on the left are here to take our questions tonight about their strategy and what it will take to reopen the government. We also invited prominent Republicans to participate in a town hall, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, and the Vice President. Those invitations stand, and we hope that those leaders will join us. To find our questioners tonight, we reached out to political and business groups, universities, and other civic organizations. Our questioners are Democrats, Republicans, and independents, some of whom are federal workers here in their personal capacity. They have asked that their party affiliation not be disclosed. Tonight's participants will be asking their own questions, selected by CNN to cover a variety of topics. You might see them holding a piece of paper that has their question on it. It's a question they wrote, and it has not been edited in any way by CNN. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Thank you, Senator. And also Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here. And of course, it's so great to have both of you here. We have so many audience questions tonight, really good ones. And Senator Sanders, just in terms of how long this shutdown has gone on, you and I have spoken multiple times during this, but we're now on the 15th day. The ninth vote
What
to
kind of
reopen the
debate is
government
this?
failed.
Yeah, Bernie and AOC are going to debate one another,
Right
chat.
when he says that this could be one of the longest government shutdowns in U.S. history?
No. I think the Republicans are catching on that you can't throw 15 million Americans off of the health care they have. And studies indicate that when you do that, some 50,000 Americans a year will die unnecessarily. And then on top of that, just in Vermont today, Caitlin, people in my state and all over this country are beginning to receive notices from insurance companies about what their new premiums will be if we do not stop what Trump is doing. In my state of Vermont, there are people today who receive notices that their premiums are going to quadruple. Quadruple. Some less, 3 times. In my state of Vermont, and again, this is true in many parts of the country, middle-class families will be paying $50,000 a year for health care. Anyone think that's sane? It's not. Who can afford that? Republicans are catching on. They're playing a losing hand. They are going to come to the table finally and address the health care crisis that they've created.
Okay, so you think Republicans will come to the table sooner rather than later. The White House has not indicated as much, and today the budget director, Russ Vought, said that north of 10,000 federal workers could be laid off during this government shutdown. Does that make Democrats rethink their strategy at all?
I wish they would be more aggro, man.
What Russ Vought just announced today in the laying off of federal workers, we learned Russ Vought. They think that destroying our health care, making sure that housing is too expensive to live in, that jacking up the costs of our groceries, they think all of this is about hurting Democrats. What they are doing is hurting Americans, and they are hurting this country. And if Mike Johnson wants to say that this shutdown is going to last a long time, it is because he is choosing to punish the American people, and we cannot stand for it, and we cannot allow it. And we also cannot enable it by acquiescing and enabling the behavior of bullies. So it ends today.
So
If I could just add to something Alexandria said.
Go ahead, Senator.
This is the cynicism of the Speaker of the House. Where are your Republican colleagues tonight? They're back here in Washington negotiating?
That's an excellent question, Bernie. Right now, House Democrats are in Washington, D.C. Senate Democrats are in Washington, D.C. Even Senate Republicans, I believe, are still in Washington, D.C. The only people who are not in Washington, D.C. are the over 200 elected Republicans in the House of Representatives, because Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, refuses to call the House in session. He refuses to also seat Adelita Grijalva because they want to prevent the 218th signature on release of the Epstein files as well.
Can I ask you on that? Because Speaker Johnson was asked about that today, and he said it has nothing to do with that. It's so she can have all the pomp and circumstance that is afforded to most members when they're sworn in. You don't believe that?
No, Mike Johnson has sworn in several members, Republican members, in pro forma sessions. He understands that the importance of this country, the importance of representation, is not about pomp and circumstance. And in fact, it's not just about Representative Grijalva. It's about the over 700,000 people in the state of Arizona, veterans, seniors, teachers, students, who do not have anyone to call in an emergency because their elected representative that has been certified at municipal, state, and the federal level with federal acknowledgement, he refuses to seat a duly elected official here in the House of Representatives.
So we have a lot of questions tonight for people who are here in Washington. And Representative Ocasio-Cortez, this first question is for you. This is Alicia Dulford, who is from Camp Springs, Maryland, and is a TSA officer who's active in her local federal employees union. Thank you so much for being here. What's your question?
Thank you for having me. As the month November approaches, many of us are facing serious hardships as we enter week 3 of the shutdown. Some are at risk of eviction or mortgage default, and local rental companies and lenders have become silent or refused to work with employees presenting DHS debt letters. What protections or emergency actions can be taken to prevent these workers and their families from losing their homes during this time?
Well, thank you so much for your question. And particularly as a TSA employee, I represent LaGuardia Airport. And so yes, I know very, very well all the hard work that you all do and put in. And,
yes, ma'am. And
you all deserve a dignified workplace. You deserve a safe workplace. And you deserve the paycheck that you are working for. What I believe the best
AOC
thing
is
that
a
we
part
can
of the
do
alt-right pipeline that
is
loops
to
around and goes
reopen the
back to
government
radical
right
centrism.
now,
Come on, man.
and to ensure and to also call on our representatives and put pressure on individuals like the Speaker of the House to actually pick up the phone. The problem here is not that there is not even that there's a disagreement. It's that the Speaker of the House and the Trump administration refuses to even have a negotiation. They refuse to even pick up the phone and talk about this. And so I
don't you
do
like
not
AOC?
want
What the
us
fuck, dude? Are you asking me?
Start to agree with what Mike Johnson is saying.
I just said the
And
person is
to
crazy
have
for
them
saying AOC is a
preview
part of
for
the
us
radical
and
centrist
normalize
alt-right
the
pipeline.
idea that everyone's just going to miss a paycheck, that 1 million federal workers are just going to go without that, and to just warn that in advance and to have us accept that. This is not acceptable. This is not normal. And what is normal is for
I wish
us
AOC
to
was more
negotiate
aggressive. And I
when
wish Bernie
one
was
party
more
wants
aggressive.
the votes of
And I
another
wish that they
party,
were
you
more
negotiate,
bold.
You come to a compromise and you pass a bill. That is schoolhouse
I think
rock.
the Democratic Party
And
basically
that is
whipped them up
how
so
things
aggressively
should
in this
be.
last Biden
So
administration
I
as a
thank you for
junior
that, and I want
partner.
to make sure that we, of course, pass a bevy of federal protections for workers, but we don't want them to be necessary in the first place.
Yeah, and Senator Sanders, on that front, on government shutdowns before, obviously you've said before that you believe shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action. You said that we must do everything possible to prevent it. What would you say to people who are missing their paychecks?
I think
about why it's
AOC and
worth
Bernie
it now?
Sanders should be the center-left position in this country. I mean it. Like, I think we need like way more radical politicians out there to their left.
But I want to just back up a little bit to discuss how we got to where we are, because I'm not sure everybody knows this. What Alexandria was just saying is in the House, majority rules, they pass the budget. In the Senate, not quite the case. It needs 60 votes, okay? That's been going on for a very long time. And the reason for the 60 votes is to encourage bipartisan negotiations, all right? Republicans have 53 people in their caucus. Democrats, including independents, have 47. You got to talk. This time, for the first time in history, what Republicans are saying, yeah, we don't have 60 votes. We're not talking to you, our way or the highway. And what we are saying, sorry, you got to sit down and talk to us. You got to deal with the healthcare crisis in this country.
Because think about it, like,
well, and they have both. Republicans have
because
argued
right
that
now,
should
Democrats
really
are trying to
government
save the
and
country from the
where do you both
Republicans,
stand
right?
on that prospect?
And in order to do that, they are trying to save Republican voters from their representatives by forcibly re-implementing the Band-Aid solution to a Band-Aid solution. Subsidies for Medicaid. Medicaid itself is a Band-Aid solution.
Okay. On that front, let's get
And
to our
should
next
be legal
question
in more.
from the audience. Senator Sanders, this one's for you. This is Jeffrey Katz, who is a tax attorney from Potomac, Maryland, who says he's a Democrat who voted for President Trump in the last election. Jeffrey, what's your question?
Senator Sanders, you've said 50,000 people could die from ACA subsidy cuts. But right now, 1.4 million federal workers aren't getting paid. How do you justify choosing a fight over subsidies that might help people in the future over workers who are definitely suffering today?
Look, you are talking to, along with Alexandria, one of the strongest pro-worker members of the United States Congress. So we are going to fight for federal workers. And by the way, in terms of the AFTRA union, you are aware that our friend in the White House basically, in an unprecedented way, decided he wasn't going to have that union anymore, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to fight for federal employees. But what you just said about 50,000 people dying a year, this is based on studies done from the University of Pennsylvania and Yale. You take 15 million people off of their health care.
Snatch that wig right out of his head, bro.
People.
Shut the fuck up, Jeffrey.
They don't go to a doctor. They have chronic problems. They
Lifelong Democrat who voted for Trump this last election? What the fuck is that?
It's not only about health care. Do you know why we are in the situation we are today? Why do you think Trump and his friends made massive cuts to Medicaid and are forcing us to double premiums for the ACA? They gave the 1% in this country $1 trillion in tax breaks.
True.
$1 trillion in tax breaks at a time when we have more income and wealth
solidified
inequality
and made
than any
permanent
time in the history
previous
of this country.
tax cuts that Donald
So
Trump
I am
had
not gonna sit
implemented that
back
were
and
slated
say,
to
yeah, we're going to
sunset.
let 50,000 people die so that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and other multi-billionaires can get a tax break.
But can I ask you in terms of negotiations and what's realistic for the subsidies which expire at the end of December? Obviously, open enrollment starts November 1st. Over in the House, there are 14 House Republicans who have said that they will sign on and they will vote for a one-year extension of the subsidies. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said he thought that proposal was laughable. Do you think that's laughable, or is that something you could get behind?
Yeah, no, let me tell you why it's laughable, because it's cynical. Republicans want to sign on to just a one little extra year of these ACA subsidies. You want to know why? What's happening next year? Midterm elections. They want to extend these subsidies just a year extra so that people don't realize the dupe that they are pulling on everyone, so that they can all reelect themselves and allow those things to expire the moment that they win reelection. And it is time to get politics out of what should be a guaranteed universal right in the United States of America, and that is health care. And so I will not accept a measly one-year acceptance of a measly one-year extension of the ACA. We need to make sure, and as a member of the party, We put negotiations in the hands of our party's leadership with Hakeem Jeffries. He says it's no, it's no. And we have to make sure that we are expanding and continuing the fight and not falling for the fine print, not falling for the tricks, and not falling for the politics around this.
If I could add to what Alexandria was saying, it's not just 15 million people losing their health insurance. And it's not just tens of millions of people seeing a doubling or a tripling in their premiums. Our healthcare system, and you guys can argue with me if you want, I think our healthcare system is broken. I think it is dysfunctional. And I think it's on the verge of collapse. And understand that when we talk about these massive cuts to healthcare from Trump and his friends, you're talking about cuts to nursing homes. You're talking about cuts to rural hospitals. You're talking about cuts to community health centers where 32 million people get their primary care. This system is on the verge of collapse. And I would hope that everybody in this room and everybody in America ask themselves a very simple question. Why is the United States, the richest country in the history of the world, the only major nation not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right?
So can I ask, if a one-year extension you say is measly and doesn't cut it, what exactly do you want to see? What would you vote for?
Medicare for all.
Well, again,
Medicare for all.
Negotiations are all about a back and forth. And the idea of accepting something for nothing, I don't think is something that we're prepared to do. And by that, I mean
single-payer healthcare.
That requires Mike Johnson saying what he's willing to do and engaging in those negotiations with Hakeem Jeffries. And so this is a team sport. This is about making sure that we're all can come to something that we can agree with. So, I think we know what we will not accept, and what we will not accept is for these ACA premiums to skyrocket on the American people. What we will not accept is the doubling of these premiums, and what we will not accept is allowing the teetering of this system to collapse right before everyone's eyes.
Okay, so you won't accept 1 year. I know, Senator, you've said that you believe they should be permanent, but in terms of what actually happens next year, what do you need to see for the government to be reopened? Can you walk me through what that looks like?
I have a radical idea. You ready for a radical idea? Let's do what the American people want. Do a poll, CNN. Ask people how many think it's a great idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and decimate the American healthcare system. And if you do not have a strong majority of Republicans, Democrats, and independents saying that is crazy, I will be surprised. Let's do what the American people want. And at the very least, as we continue the fight for a Medicare for all single-payer system, we're going to protect people today from losing their health care or for seeing their premiums skyrocket, seeing nursing homes, community health centers decimated.
But let's say that the White House and Republican leaders say that they will extend these subsidies. It's not clear how long, because you say 1 year is not enough.
I'm going to continue this. I am going to continue this video tomorrow. So there will be some good content for tomorrow. But I have to go because I have a panel that I have to attend, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. I didn't even get to... What is this? Selling my TikTok account? We're good, man. Thanks. I have to go because I have a panel that I have to go to. I didn't even get to do the Hollywood top 100 whatever. I'm in the Hollywood Reporter a week after they called PETA on me as one of the top 50 most influential influencers. No, the panel is not live. Jesus Christ. Everything doesn't have to be on camera, okay? Sometimes I do things off camera. All right. So, love you guys. I will be here tomorrow. You already know what it is. Tomorrow is Thursday. We got Gianmarco Soresi. He's going to be in the building, live and alive in the building. We're going to be watching the Zohran Kwame Mamdani debate. Hopefully, they're not going to bring me up. I'm the one of the ban price gouging. Yeah. A senior IRS official involved in the effort has drawn up a list of potential targets that include major Democratic donors, some of the people said. The undertaking aims to install allies of President Trump at the IRS Criminal Investigative Division, or IRS-CI. To exert firmer control over the unit and weaken the involvement of IRS lawyers and criminal investigations, officials said. The proposed changes could open the door to politically motivated probes and are being driven by Gary Shapley, an advisor to the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They fired the commissioner of the Large Business and Internation IRS business unit like 4 months ago for doing this law. What does this mean? I don't understand. Trump wants to use the IRS to go after big Democrat Party donors and try to find like inconsistencies in their tax filings and basically bully them with paperwork. Or in some instances, I guess in some instances they could probably find like loopholes that in other circumstances the IRS would like look the other way on or just not really prosecute. He could just use that as an opportunity to go after people, because like a lot of I think super wealthy people in this country don't actually do the proper paperwork for a multitude of different reasons. One, because they're like engaging in the light version of tax evasion that is like often not prosecuted, or they are like they're doing shit that other people do all the time. But ultimately, it's just blackmail and leverage. Stephen Harper did a similar thing in Canada, absolutely cooked progressive NGOs. Good thing the IRS is defunded. True, but I'm sure they'll find they'll shake the couch cushions a little bit to find some money to do this in particular. This can be good. Finally, Dems will be forced not to be funded by billionaires. Dog, what are you talking about? Like, listen. I mean, it doesn't have to be legitimate. Look at what they did to Lisa Cook. That's the other thing. That's true. They could just like fabricate shit. They don't necessarily need anything real. This will probably hurt like, I suspect this will probably hurt like NGOs harder than like big ticket donors to the Democrats, because those guys probably already have their processes pretty, like, it'll be annoying for them. It'll be a nuisance for them to have like their team have to undergo audits and shit constantly.
To see here. But that being said, just in 2023, in a case called Allen v. Milligan, the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, held that a similar map in Alabama did violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, with Roberts writing that Alabama was attempting to remake our Section 2 jurisprudence anew. In that case, Roberts and Kavanaugh surprised us all when they joined the liberal justices in finding against Alabama's map in that case. That could happen again. However, the fact that this case is being reheard this term indicates the court might be ready to shake things up, because they don't tend to do that very often. And in the Alabama case, they were looking at whether the map violated the Voting Rights Act, not whether the Voting Rights Act violates the Constitution. It could be that this re-argument more properly tees up the Voting Rights Act for a thorough constitutional question, giving the conservative justices a good whack at undermining the whole thing. After Wednesday's oral arguments, the justices likely won't issue a ruling for a while, though Louisiana has elections in April and so have asked the court to make a decision as soon as December or January in anticipation of that election. They could hold very narrowly that in this instance, this particular map from Louisiana isn't a good map, but the state can go and try to create a different one that more complies with Section 2 and the Constitution. Or they could make a broader ruling saying, actually, this isn't about this specific map. This is about how the entire Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is actually in violation of the 14th and 15th Amendments, and strike down the whole thing. A piece by Richard Hasen, professor of law at UCLA for Slate, lays out what would happen if the Supreme Court decides against the Voting Rights Act in this case. Quote, if the Supreme Court moves forward with this interpretation, it would be a sea change to voting rights law. It would be an earthquake in politics and make our legislative bodies whiter and our protection for minority voters greatly diminished. Even if the court less drastically says that Section 2 cannot be used to require the 2nd congressional district in this case, such as superficially
lower standards is in the way that people try to claim that that's what affirmative action is. It's very frustrating. I found a lot of people are pretty receptive to learning about just how horrific slavery was. Most people in this country, even in the woke areas, don't actually learn about what slavery really was. Yeah, I think that's what it is. No shade, I want to hear you out. Why turn the Kai thing political? I know this is your space, but it feels inconsistent to claim the situation as a form of marginalization, then mute thousands of chats. Yeah, I think it's okay. In order for me to, continue talking about how voting rights are on the chopping block, for example, instead of just pausing the stream and constantly relitigating this shit over and over again, we got to fucking mute some people. This is not discrimination. It's just
in order to attempt to give the people suffering from the long-lasting negative impacts of having endured horrific, inhumane treatment for centuries some semblance of equality. That is the spirit of those amendments. And the Voting Rights Act was meant to further solidify those rights enshrined in those amendments, because even after the 15th Amendment was passed, many states, especially states like Louisiana in the South, were continuing to infringe on Black people's right to vote through things like horribly unfair literacy tests and poll taxes. None of these laws were meant to be race blind and were instead explicitly meant to fix centuries of abuse and inequality. But of course, white people weren't ready to go quietly into the night and accept that maybe they would have to cede some of their power. So the backlash against the amendments and against the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was swift. And today, the common conservative argument against the Voting Rights Act and protections against racial gerrymandering is that being race neutral and colorblind is the only.
But then they always talk about, like, I have a dream that, white and black children will be equal one day. And then they cynically will use that line to say, like, MLK was also colorblind. Like, and wanted everybody to be judged by the content of the character. Yeah, at a time when black people are being discriminated, black people are still being discriminated. A lot of these initiatives that were put in place are Band-Aid solutions to try to overcome that systematic discrimination that black people faced. This is not me just being woke, by the way. I know that a lot of people, well, maybe not people in this community, but like a lot of people hear me say that and go, this guy's fucking fake. Look at him just saying the right things, But I just have a firm belief, a firm commitment to the notion that every single person, if given the opportunity, is destined for greatness. And we do not unlock that potential for so many people. We don't unlock that potential for those in the global South, and we certainly don't unlock that potential for marginalized communities in the United States of America. A lot of that violence and discrimination is racialized in this country because white supremacy is a fundamental principle in the United States of America. But outside of that, there is also a very distinct class warfare that takes place as well. Rage Chief, thank you. Yeah, this guy literally came in and said, I'm a right winger. YouTube is down big mad. MAGA Rage Watcher here because I can't watch your YouTube stuff right now. Please do some rage bait, please. Rage Chief, thank you. Like, this man is mad that I said, regardless of, make sure that black people are represented, or is anti this, or what, cause I do not understand Euro chatter here. Black people have a higher likelihood of voting for the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party, at least historically, has in the last couple of decades, has defended black people's rights. And the process of redistricting basically